Mission Log Supplemental number 27, another one from Star Trek Las Vegas.
Oh my goodness, it's another edition of Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm Ken Ray.
And I'm John Champion.
And each week on Mission Log, we watch an episode of
wait, no, not
the Yams.
Not this week, Ken.
Not this week, because it's Thanksgiving here in the U.S. You know, Canada had their Thanksgiving like 7 weeks ago.
Wow.
I know, they're crazy, right?
They are.
They are.
And
the UK, of course, doesn't even give thanks.
For anything.
I don't know if you know this about them. They're a completely thankless group of people. Actually, hi, everybody in the UK. I hope you're enjoying your, Thursday. Here in the States, it's Thanksgiving. I think, like, right along, actually, the U.S.-Canada border, they know something's up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine who lives just outside of Detroit. They're apparently all about the Detroit Lions game, even though he's in Canada.
So, like,
I'd think they'd be waiting for some sort of curling match or something.
So, like, if you popped into a Tim Hortons and you're like, Happy Thanksgiving, they just kind of give you a knowing wink, just a little nod. Like, I get you.
Maybe
Okay.
so. Although, I do live near the Canadian border myself. There are lots of Tim Hortons on this side of the border.
Oh, okay. Oh, lucky you.
Yeah. Hey, only another 58 more minutes of this, people. Actually, that's not true. So for people who don't know about the convention that John and I have been going to for the past number of years, Star Trek Las Vegas, of course. I guess one thing to know about it is it involves a lot of Star Trek. And the other thing to know about it is it happens in Las Vegas. Now, if you don't know much about Vegas, you start with liquor and you realize that's not nearly enough. And all of which is to say, we have finally gotten over our respective celebrations and are putting together now the other show from Las Vegas.
Well, yeah, the first show was our supplemental where we did our stage show, Song and Dance, where it's kind of a little more formalized mission log thing. But if you happen to come to Vegas, you will find the two of us sitting behind a table and meeting and greeting and chatting, and that's fantastic. And every now and then we get out the mic and we record a little something. And it's just very impromptu. People drop by, and sometimes they're listeners of the show, and sometimes they have no idea who we are, why we're putting a mic in front of them.
Yeah,
but they're good sports about it. And is the case with this show, we have a blend of listeners and non-listeners and a little bit of Star Trek celebrity in there as well.
Yeah, there's a luminary, at least one.
Yeah.
We grabbed one of our listeners was somebody who actually had a really good story that I loved. So I can't remember her last name. I'm terrible about that. But Brooke. You know Brooke.
Yeah.
You know Brooke.
We all know Brooke.
Yeah, a lot of people probably do. If you go to Vegas, you're excited now because you're like, oh, I always see her. Yeah, she's the Starfleet Jedi, or she's Kira, or any number of people because she's got this whole costume thing. But you'll hear about that. Who else is with us, John?
Well, you're going to hear from the Commodore.
The Commodore.
So definitely you want to hear that because if you want to join Barfleet, then the Commodore will tell you what that's all about.
If sitting around drinking is not nearly rigid enough for you.
Right.
Command structure and drinking. Yeah, so we'll hear from the Commodore. Yeah.
And you're going to hear from Rick Sternbach. He is our Star Trek luminary for the episode. We talk about design in the 23rd and 24th centuries and more. There's more after that. So we have a lot of little interviews kind of stacked up for you to listen to, and then we'll be back the next Thursday with our regularly scheduled mission log.
Yes, next week when we tackle Tin Man. Wait, I'm sorry, there's no comma. Tin Man.
You're stealing my best material. I handcrafted that joke, and you're taking the good stuff.
First of all, Brooke.
Yes.
The first time I saw you, I didn't want to talk to you because I was pretty sure that you were a visitor. And so part of me is like, oh, I want to talk to her, but then I'm like, oh, what am I going to say to her? It's dumb. And then I realized that's not her. But wow, like no costume, no makeup, no anything. You bear a striking resemblance.
I keep hearing that from people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, were you a fan? I mean, like, so did you hear that from people, and you were like, yeah, I know, because I watch it, or you didn't watch it? I mean, talk to me about how did you end up coming into this?
I've been a Trekkie since I was, probably 13 or 14.
Okay.
And no, so I honestly did not think I looked anything like her.
Really?
Until people were like, oh, you got to cosplay as Kira. You got to do it. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a go. And then I honestly didn't, I still thought people were crazy. And then it wasn't until I had a photo op with her when I went, oh, maybe we did kind of look similar. And frankly, I mean, we just, when you're at a convention like this, people see what they want to see.
Sure.
So it's kind of like, I don't know that I look exactly like her. It's just people want to see her. And
right.
So when they see me, I look enough like her that's what they see.
One of the cool things, so you mentioned your cosplay, and what's really interesting, you do, well, there are a couple of things we want to talk about. You do this really interesting mashup of Star Trek and Star Wars.
Yeah.
Now, when I've tried to describe it to people, I get this sort of, kind of response from people who think that it's, okay, it sounds gimmicky or something. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
The Star Trek Jedi stuff that you do, because it's sort of like, well, what would you say about it? I mean, it's definitely next gen. It's also definitely Jedi. But how would you lay it out?
Well, so basically, I took the shape of Star Wars and put the colors of Star Trek on it, with Star Trek pips and badges and things like that,
right.
And a lightsaber and a phaser and a tricorder and a sonic screwdriver.
Sonic screwdriver. I don't remember that from Star Wars.
I don't
or
either.
Star Trek.
No.
That's interesting.
And so, I've had people look at it and they go, "Oh, you're from Star Trek," and then a bit later they go, "Oh no, what's the lightsaber doing there?" And then other people the other way around. It's like, "Oh, that's Star Wars. What's
the
Star
insignia
Trek
for?
thing?"
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
And I've only ever had one person give me a real crusty for doing it.
Really?
Which actually disappoints me. I wanted more people to get upset.
Well, now, how long
thought
have
you
you
were
been
saying
doing
just more of it.
costuming, though?
I kind of grew up at a theater.
Oh,
and,
okay.
and so I've done costumes professionally. I don't even know how many years now, but since before I was in college.
Okay.
So.
And then how long have you been coming to Star Trek conventions?
This is my 6th year at this convention.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I know that I've seen you around in some awesome costumes. And like Ken, I thought that you were the real Nana.
I love being mistaken for a beautiful person. That's fantastic.
Nice.
Well, you are a beautiful person. You're being mistaken for another one.
Oh.
Hey.
Oh, thank you.
So one of the cool things that I was surprised. This is my 4th convention, and I was amazed how immediately there was like almost an instant community.
Yes.
For me and the people that I've hung out with, and that community has gotten a bit bigger. I mean, there are certain people that I look forward to seeing, but that community thing, I sort of like, well, that's something that happens to me. I don't know if it's something that happens to everybody. I don't know how that goes. Mm-hmm. You're doing this thing here that is really cool, and it so highlights, I think, the community aspect of it. You've got a remind me, what is the exact name of the booth where you are?
Garrick's Tailor Shop.
Garrick's Tailor Shop. And this is for people who, if they have a costume that they have poured their heart and soul into, or maybe they poured a lot of money into, or something like that, something has gone wrong, you guys...
They come to us and we fix their broken dreams.
which is both poetic and kind of... Here's the thing, though. So I don't know if you know this part. Okay. I said to her, so... What do you like? You look at it and decide how much time it's going to take, and that's how you figure out your cost or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's no charge.
I'm amazed. So now, for people who don't understand, we're in the vendor room at Star Trek Las Vegas. In Garrick's, you have a table here.
Yes.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And did Creation just sort of donate it to you? Do you say I'm doing a nonprofit, a service?
I kind of heard through the grapevine that Creation was going to be doing this, and that they were looking for a professional costumer to help run it.
Okay.
Not. Cosplayers are incredibly creative and stuff like that, but they wanted somebody who actually does it.
Right.
And so I contacted them and just gave them my resume and said, "This is what I do." And so that's how we got started doing it. So this is the 2nd year that we've done it.
So, and I just want to wrap my head around it. Okay, somebody shows up and they have a split seam or something. You're just kind of, oh, okay, I'll piece that back together. And then somebody else shows up with, well, here's my pattern.
Yeah. There are some people that come in, they're like, they want complete and total alterations, and we're not set up to do that.
Right.
But, we can help fix things. We'll sew on patches, broken fingernails. We're not the best. We've got some stuff to help with prosthetics, but there are people around here that are more skilled with that than we are. But we're here if they need that. Just anything.
And what's the turnout been like? I mean, how busy
really
have
busy,
you stayed?
especially today. Saturday's really been quite busy. So we did have somebody who, when somebody comes up, I like saying, please state the nature of the costuming emergency. and his response was, I sat down, and he had split out his seam. So it was like, come behind. We've got a little modesty screen, and we fixed his emergency, and then everything was all happy and good.
Now, I'd imagine that would be kind of the common thing, right? Oh, I ripped this. Can you, but what are the more complex tasks that you've taken on here?
Oh, well, the really complex stuff we won't do.
No,
so,
right.
Yeah, because if people come up and they're like, I want to have this. Oh, I guess the most complex thing I did was I took in a vest for somebody, which really isn't all that complex.
But it's a free service if people are coming here at the convention.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's very cool.
So anybody coming to future shows, I mean, first of all, if you do have a costuming emergency, look for Garrett's. But then the other thing is, if you're wandering around and you see Kira, there's a 50% chance that you're seeing Brooke. Thanks for stopping by our table.
Thank you so much.
We're visited now by a dignitary.
Oh wait, I got a thing.
You got a thing?
Drinks. The final frontier. Does that sound fair?
That was good.
All right.
That was good. I was going to remark that so often on Star Trek, when you meet an admiral, a commodore, run and hide. Go away. It's bad news.
You don't want to talk to those people.
You don't want to talk to those people.
They're going to make you do something stupid.
But we found one that we want to talk to.
Yes.
We found the Commodore of Barfleet. Wait, did I mispronounce Starfleet?
No, I don't believe you did. Well, yeah, you did. If you were trying to say Starfleet, then yes, you did.
But I didn't. What I meant to say was Barfleet. That's bar with a B. And the man with us is the Commodore of Barfleet.
Yeah.
So, Commodore, I'm going to ask you to describe to our listeners what Barfleet is.
Well, the most simple explanation is that we are a Star Trek club with a drinking problem, or a drinking club with a Star Trek problem.
Oh.
But at the end of the day, what we are is a multi-state, not-for-profit social group that throws parties at conventions. We do our best to entertain in a safe and friendly environment, to give people a place to go where they can hang out, drink, dance, socialize, and be safe.
And you have chapters all over the U.S.
Well, mainly in the Midwest right now. We're in Cleveland and Columbus, Ohio, Detroit, Michigan, Chicago, Indianapolis, and Connecticut, and Detroit.
And how many members, roughly, do you have?
Around 650 right now.
Whoa. 650 dedicated Star Trek drinkers.
You could say that. I will say, not even all of our members are Star Trek fans either at all or heavily, but we have lots of nerds, lots of geeks, and everybody is into some part of fandom that they are very passionate about.
It sounded like the conversation that we were having with someone else earlier. I mean, one of the cool things about coming to a convention like this is you almost have auto-community in a way. Like, when you walk in, to certain bars or certain parties, you've got some baseline with this group of people. And I would imagine that's one of the cool things about Barfleet as well. I mean, if you get the joke, and if you want to hang, there's a pretty good chance when you show up at that party, you're going to have someone to talk to about something.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be like so you like science fiction.
Exactly. We're all on the same page.
What does one do to join or be a part of Barfleet or find a Barfleet party?
Well, we have a Facebook presence. It's Barfleet. We try to put all of our upcoming events that we're doing publicly on that. If you're in a city that's close enough to one of our ships and you want to have a lucrative career in Barfleet, an all-volunteer organization, then you can certainly talk to the local chapter's captain and see about getting on board. But that's a lot of work. I mean, if you're going to join us as a full-time member, it's a commitment of work at conventions. We do a lot of security. We do a lot of bartending. We do a lot of moving the large objects around because we bring our own bar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to ask you about that. So, because you've gone back and forth, you've said, our bars and you've said our ships. Talk to me about that. And this is something you and I haven't talked about. What is the actual structure?
The structure is much like other Star Trek fan organizations, in that we have a central command, which is Barfleet Command, and then below that we have each chapter is modeled as a ship, except for Columbus, which is Bar Base Columbus.
Nice.
And they are the largest of our chapters in terms of participation, usually. And there is the people at the top at Barfleet Command level are like the best at some of the jobs we do. So our Surgeon General, and to clarify, bartenders are medical.
Oh,
so,
of course. Yeah.
So our doctors are our bartenders, and the Surgeon General is our chief bartender.
Yeah.
Then we have our head security, our head insecurity, because you also need an insecurity department. And their job is basically, if one of us in command is overly stressed or feeling like there is just too much going on to handle, an insecurity officer's job is to take that hit, panic, and let us get on with the day.
So now I started going to conventions when I was, I don't know, maybe 14 or something, and some conventions are very much about like the professional experience, the actual panels and all that, and then some are very heavily geared toward the room parties and all that stuff. What makes you guys different? I mean, what's the Barfleet experience as opposed to just like, I showed up at a convention and I went to the big party in the ballroom, or I went to the room party where there was, a bowl of pretzels. And
well, what we try to do, and usually succeed at doing, is taking a suite or multiple suites of a hotel and turning it into basically a nightclub. I mean, we bring our own bar, as I said. The smallest single component would be a 5x5 3-piece, all wood, with shelving and everything else, lighting. All the ships have their own bar, and they can all be joined together into one very large bar, although that's never really happened. At ShyCon 7, we had 5 bars, but they weren't all connected. They were just roaming around. Well, not roaming.
Right.
Scattered around the room. We also bring a full DJ rig, full light kit. We set up a dance floor whenever we possibly can so that we can also have that going on. We do our best to have, if we have multiple rooms, to keep the dancing and the bar separate, so there's also socialization. If we can have enough room to have just a lounge for people to hang out. So, a normal room party tends to be a fairly small affair. They don't commit to changing a lot of what they get. You go into a room party and there's beds and there's some furniture and the standard lighting. We change all of that. You come into one of our suites and there are no beds. There's no furniture if we can get rid of it. And we'll put it all back exactly the way we found it, if not better. Yep. I mean, we have fixed things as we put them back in the room that the hotel didn't even know about.
And now, as the Commodore, you're the founder of Barfleet?
I'm the founder, yeah.
Okay, but there's an important person who's part of that higher structure of Barfleet.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we find somebody who we feel significantly contributes to what we do, or is somebody we have been lucky enough to meet who is very important to Star Trek, we make them an admiral. Commodore is the highest actual working rank in Barfleet. Admirals are honorary, and they only have as much responsibility as they feel like. We certainly will take their orders as long as they're not ridiculous. And on top of the admirals that we have the highest ranking member of Barfleet, the Fleet Admiral.
Ooh.
And that is Rod Roddenberry.
Oh, see?
That guy gets everything.
He finally amounted to something.
It is nice, although he is working for his dad's organization. I mean,
Yeah. Well, nepotism at its worst. Cool.
I was very excited, though, because I was told that should I decide to pursue a career in Barfleet myself, I could probably go straight to Admiral.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to being that kind of jerk and having people say, sir. So obviously, having just stated I'm really not interested in doing that much, this is not something I would want to do, but I'm curious for people. Buffalo is not that far from Cleveland.
No, it's not.
And, there are other places that it's near, and other places are near Cleveland. Let's say somebody's listening to this and they think, "Wow, how do I get a ship to the fleet?" I mean, how do you end up with an outpost someplace else or a ship someplace else?
Well, we have we try to grow slowly, and we usually try to grow in such a way that the next ship out is within support range of an existing ship.
Okay.
So, because there's a lot of driving, there's a lot of training of people to do things our way, because we're pretty particular about safety and sanitation in parties and things. So we don't want to just say, "Oh, you have a group of people and you want to start a ship? Sure, go ahead." No, we've never done that. We're never going to. We are very particular. But if you are close enough and you want to consider doing that, then certainly you can talk to myself or any captain or a local captain, or you can get online and get a hold of us on the web. We have a site at barfleet.org, which is currently in transition. It's a working website, but it's not as pretty as we want, and that will be changing. And we have a Facebook presence, again, just Barfleet. And you can also find us at the cons that we will list on that Facebook page. Come find us there, and we'll talk.
Commodore, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you both.
Thank you, sir.
I got to say, one of my favorite things about Rick Sternbach, and I'm name dropping.
Yeah.
Rick and I have been in communication for several years, long before I actually started doing Mission Log. And the cool thing is, I will make some Star Trek joke back in the day on Mac OS Ken or on Mission Log now, and then I'll get this email that says, "Funny story." For example, people who cannot see us, and through the magic of audio you can't, John and I actually did pull off costumes this year. Well, we put on costumes this year.
We did.
We are the Frozen people from the Neutral Zone in Season 1 of Next Gen.
So you're making a dashing LQ Sonny Clemens, complete with guitar.
Thank you kindly, sir.
Yeah.
And you are just about as uptight as a Ralph Offenhouse could possibly be.
Into Offenhouse. And we're missing our Claire Raymond, who was here earlier.
Yeah, she's insufferable.
Yeah, she is the insufferable Claire Raymond.
But we also have sitting here with us Rick Sternbach, who has worked on design. Is it fair to say design for Star Trek since the motion picture?
Since the motion picture, yeah. An illustrator in Hollywood, will do sketch work, we'll do storyboards, sketches of sets before they're even built.
Mm-hmm.
Gives the director, something to look at, plan shots. Sometimes we build models out of foam core. And the directors love those because they can twist them around, they can look at different angles, they can decide, we're going to run the crane with the camera through this window.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, for what we were just talking about, you started to tell us a story about this show. Anyway, I mean, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that you did not survive from cryogenics into the 24th century.
No, but the label on my capsule survived just fine.
That's very nice, and I understand you had a very well-known other compatriot who also did not survive.
Yes, Mike Okuda, our scenic artist, and Mike and I. More me. I would put as many jokes as I could into the show. Yeah, non-obtrusively. Lots of anime references because I was I'm still an anime fanatic.
You started to tell us something about paper, tape. What was the story you were saying?
Well, in the early days of Next Generation, we did not have all the technology for, doing fabulous graphics on the computer. Although we did get our Macintoshes in, pretty early. Mm-hmm. But all of the other printing technology, it took a while to get into the office. So a lot of times what we do is take regular colored script paper and Xerox some labels onto those, cut them out, hit them with a little spray glue, and bingo, on the set.
Good grief. That's kind of amazing. That actually
it's kind of how we put the podcast together, actually.
It is a bit, yes. Yeah. A lot of cut and paste.
Yeah.
A lot of cut and paste, that's true. So there is something that I want to go further back than we are right now. There is something that I did not realize until we started getting into the movies. When we got between the animated series and Star Trek the Motion Picture, I didn't know this whole thing about Star Trek Phase 2. When you came on and started working on the motion picture, were you working on the motion picture, or were you working on phase 2?
No, when I first came out to Los Angeles, it was in late '77. And I went around to a number of studios, talked to a number of art directors. MGM was doing Meteor. And I went to Paramount. I met with Joe Jennings, who was the production designer on Phase 2.
Okay.
Met Mike Miner, wonderful artist who's no longer with us. Met some of the set designers. And I left my card, my samples. Jennings said, they didn't have anything for me at the time. So I said, thanks for seeing me anyway. I went to a number of other places. I got 3 months worth of work on Disney's The Black Hole.
Wow.
I love that movie.
So I got, I got a taste of what production was like. That ended when they went back to work on the script. They laid us all off. I did some little freelance jobs, and one day, this is months after my first meeting at Paramount, I get a call from Joe Jennings. They're announcing the feature in the morning. Would you like to come in?
Wow.
And,
all right.
What was I going to say? No. So, for me, it just took an instant to go from a television series to Star Trek the motion picture. And that was like 8 months of working on new control panels, designing certain other bits of graphical signage, and helping out with the look of some of the set pieces. And from that very moment, it was an amazing family of people to work with. John Cartwright, the lead set designer, father of Angela and Veronica.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from him. Joe Jennings left to do a little series called Shogun. And Harold Michelson came in as production designer. And Harold was an astounding teacher. He worked with Hitchcock. He did wonderful storyboards. He knew production design inside and out. And I learned about this technique called projection, where you take the blueprints from the set designers and you can turn them into accurate perspective views, which again is a big help. Today we can do models. Today we can do CGI. You can grow a set from the bottom up in computer graphics. We didn't have that back in 1978.
Right.
Right. And we didn't even have a Xerox machine in the office. I had to go across the lot to get copies made.
Well, you're only doing visual work. What would you need with a copy of something visual? That's just crazy.
Well, we were doing paste ups of control panel things.
Right.
Sending them out to get photographic negatives shot. Then we would glue. We did a lot of that on Next Generation when that finally came about. But back on the first motion picture, I did a lot of control panel art. We sent that out. The stage effects guys down on stages, down on stage 8, would put colored gels on the backs of these photo negatives and light them and instantly turn them into, the future. It's a whole different world. It's a whole different way of doing things that fortunately got much, much better.
Right. This is probably a ridiculous question because I know we're talking about decades of work. We're talking about, the other thing that's been interesting is I've gotten to see some of your work, both in presentations that you've done here and also just in things that you've shown me personally. And it's interesting how, it can be big things like a ship. It can be small things like a decoration on Chakotay's wall. I mean, I know the number of things that you have that have you've either participated in or that have come from you is gargantuan. So I'm going to ask you the most silly thing in the world. What's your favorite? Do you have one thing that you're like, every time you look at it, you're like, well, I don't care if I maybe didn't like that quite as much. I don't care if I like that. I nailed that.
You know, people ask me this about the ships because they're so iconic and so visible.
Right.
You know, I would tell them that it's a toss-up for me between Voyager and the Klingon attack cruiser, the Vorcha class, which is, you know, and I have to say it's a big tip of the hat to Matt Jeffries, who designed the original Klingon battle cruiser. You know, the shapes of the nacelles, some of the Klingon styling that you know we developed. You know, it all came from Matt. And you know, you see a ship with a saucer and a secondary hull and two nacelles. Okay, yeah. It goes back to Matt.
Right.
And you know, we just love being part of that lineage. You know, every major piece of equipment that I've gotten to do has sort of been my favorite at the time.
Okay.
But you know, Voyager and the Vorcha, you know, we put a lot of work into those. The model makers, just you know, you think I put a lot of work into the drawings. The model makers had to make these things real, and big. Okay, Voyager is 5 feet long. Okay, when John Eves did the Enterprise E for the features, okay, ILM built a model 10 feet long. I gave them blueprints that were 5 feet long, and they doubled them. You know, and these guys put an astounding amount of work, you know, to make us look good.
Right.
And you know, all together, all of the film and television product that comes out, it's all this massive team effort, and that's you know that's sort of why we're here, you know, this weekend is celebrating all of that.
Right. Forgive me, but along the same lines, Vulcans, Romulans, Klingons, humans, name it. Is there a particular culture for which you have an affinity? I mean, is there one that you're like, oh, I like doing them? Because I mean, you just mentioned the sort of Klingon sort of visual terminology in a way a moment ago. Is there one that you're like, oh, they're the most fun to play with, or they're an interesting one to play with, or is every challenge a challenge?
Well, I haven't really contributed that much to the look of the other alien cultures.
Okay.
You know, that's a lot of makeup work. It's a lot of wardrobe work.
Okay. Thinking in terms of like ships and accoutrement, though. I mean,
well, okay. As far as the hardware from the different cultures goes, I think I've had the most fun with the Klingons.
Okay.
Second, I think might be the Cardassians, especially with Deep Space Nine.
Sure.
Deep Space Nine, as Herman Zimmerman put it, you know, as production designer, he said we had to start thinking like Cardassians. You know, taking cues from the wardrobe, taking cues from the makeup, and you know, you look at those neck bulges, those arches, those sorts of things. We will take those cues and try to work them into things like the hardware. A lot of alien hardware, just because it's an alien of the week, we have to get the drawings out the door.
Right.
They end up being sort of bronzy colored with green or purple accents. Okay, and that's kind of a fallback. And it's not being lazy. It's being, you know, it's working under pressure. Episodic television is a harsh mistress.
Right.
But you know, yeah, we really did try to keep all of the hardware, and just like the wardrobe and makeup did, we tried to keep the hardware distinct from Starfleet, distinct from each other. I like doing the Romulans because there's a lot of a retro feel to it, the 30s kind of a look to it. And I just had a ball with all of the different cultures.
When I asked sort of a similar question, though, so you talked about what you enjoyed designing and what stands out to you. But when you look at all the work that you guys did on multiple Star Trek series for multiple cultures, everything down to labels and buttons on computer interfaces and stuff, do you look at the world now and you see design elements and you go, I know where they got that. They got that from Star Trek, you know?
Well, in a way, I jokingly tell people, okay, I drew up the iPod in 1987,
right.
Which turned into the pad.
Yeah.
But I think in that case it was a case of a couple of people having the same idea and arriving at the same stylistic decisions. Starfleet is a very simple, very streamlined, and I hate the word futuristic, but, in the future everything is sleeker, flatter, rounded corners. My
wireless.
goodness, it's just like a Mac, But it's one of these things where how can you not get to that design style?
I know that a lot of people talk to Mike Okuda about this, but you are very much a part of that team as well. You are equal to all of those people that you're talking about. Herman Zimmerman, all of you designed the look and feel of the future. The 24th century look that lasted for decades on TV and in movies, and for as much credit as people rightfully give to Star Trek the original series, and they look at a communicator and they say, oh, look, and I got a flip phone, and then I got another phone that did something even better than that. I think we look at computer interfaces and we look at logos and design elements in that period of Star Trek, 24th century Star Trek, and sooner or later you see it creep into the products that we use every day.
Exactly. And even more advanced in a lot of ways than the equipment that we designed for the show. Although I have to say that separate devices like the communicator, the badge, communicator, tricorder, and pad all did separate things. Okay, and there's no reason why you could not talk to the tricorder. We just didn't use it that way.
Right.
Okay. On the show, each of these devices gave the actors a little, bit of what they call, a little bit of business to do, and it, and the audiences understood. If you tap your badge, you're talking to somebody else, or you're talking to the onboard computer, things like that. Now, pretty soon, your smartphone is going to behave like all of these devices put together.
Yeah. And maybe even a phaser if we're lucky.
Yeah. And I've talked to a number of people and scratching my head, how can we make science fiction devices even more advanced? I have to sit back and think about that. Because this, real technology has caught up and in some ways surpassed us a lot faster than I would have ever imagined. I mean, now we still don't have warp drive.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of this tech, we're very safe.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't even have standard fusion engines. But in terms of the personal electronics and things, and computers, and automated systems and so forth, those are progressing amazingly fast.
I was having a conversation with somebody here at the convention the other day about that, saying that when you take a prop like a book, Captain Kirk collects books, or he wears glasses, or something like that, then you ground the character, and it's something that I, in an audience, in late 20th, early 21st century, I can look at and I can identify with. And the idea that Star Trek could and maybe should, I don't know, I kind of vacillate on the answer here, go further and further into the future, then what does that hardware become? How are the stories affected by that when things that are so fantastical, things that, like you were saying, the technology then becomes something completely different? How do you even conceive of what that technology would be, to the point that you stop being able to identify with the character and that character's problems?
Yeah. Well, some people have thought that, and you hear little bits of this at things like TED Talks and South by Southwest, and will all of this super miniaturized technology simply be implanted in our heads? Okay. Now, from a TV or movie dramatic standpoint, that's astoundingly boring.
Yeah, right.
But is that the thing that's going to happen? Okay, are we going to have, terabytes or petabytes of capacity built into our heads? Are we going to be able to, order up a pizza simply by, twitching our faces a little bit, and then it appears?
I keep trying, but it doesn't work. Yeah.
So I mean, we're in this constant transitional period. From older tech to newer tech. How do you show it? How do you create wonderful stories that people can actually understand? It takes a while. Okay, I firmly believe that we will never totally ditch the book.
Yeah.
Okay, books are wonderful records. They don't require any power. But having said that, I am donating a lot of my older library to places like the library system in California, simply because books weigh a lot more than the internet. But I'm making smart choices about which books I want to keep.
Right.
And I think you could say that sort of the same thing about technology. There are technologies that we should hang on to and maybe improve, and other technologies that we should just explore like crazy, to see what they can do for us.
Please introduce yourself.
I am Rosemary Huang. I am an aerospace engineer working for the Aerospace Corporation. Basically, I'm a rocket scientist.
Basically, I'm a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
That's not a phrase you hear often. Basically, it's rocket science. I mean, it's not like rocket science is brain surgery.
No.
See, because that's the other thing.
Or
that
rocket
people
surgery.
Say. No, it's not that at all. Well,
No.
It could be, probably.
I don't know. Yeah.
So, well, I mean, the whole reason we're talking to you is, what is the reason that you were a rocket scientist?
It's because of Star Trek, The Next Generation. I was a kid watching it, and it inspired me with its realistic portrayal of spaceship exploration, and I wanted so bad to be a part of it. And at first, I thought the way to do it was to become an astronaut, which my physical attributes like my eyesight and my height make it kind of hard, but just as good as I pursued a PhD in aerospace engineering, and now I work as a rocket scientist doing spacecraft and rocket trajectories for a living.
Well, okay, now something that you just said was that the realistic portrayal of space exploration in The Next Generation is what stuck with you.
Yeah.
So what, other than transporters and warp drives and stuff that you may be working on right now, even in your head as we do this interview, and I don't know it, but what are those things that you said, that's the thing that I can do or want to do or want to help other people be able to do? Because I'm terrified of the Borg, and if what you're working on is a way for us to reach the Delta Quadrant, I don't want that.
Yeah, basically, the actors and actresses made it so real that the illusion so real that it seemed like they were actually on the ship going somewhere. And that's what inspired me as a kid. Of course, back then I didn't know much about engineering, but I was fascinated by all the technology, and I still think some of it may be possible. It's just it might take us a little while to get there. But we have the pads, Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. We got pads. We got communicators.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some of the stuff may not be so far-fetched.
Well, so what do you work on the day-to-day?
I am an expert in low-thrust trajectories. Basically, what you know about Deep Space One, there was that ion engine on it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Those type of trajectories differ from other typical spacecraft trajectories in that it's such a low, has such low force that you need to use special tools to come up with the trajectories, and that's what I'm an expert at. So that's my PhD work.
And how long have you been coming to Star Trek conventions?
I'm pretty old. I've been coming since the Next Generation days when it was originally airing.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Very cool. And what is it about this? I mean, is it meeting the celebrities?
It's this time around. This is the first time I've gone in years, and this is the first time I've gone since I've gotten my job. And I just wanted to talk to people who are involved to thank them for what they have done for my life. Basically, I wouldn't be here without them. The actors who've done such a great job portraying their characters, and talking to Roddenberry to let him know his father's legacy. I'm probably one of many who were inspired by Star Trek to become rocket scientists or physicists or astrophysicists. So I just wanted to say that my primary reason to come here this time was to thank everybody.
Are there other people at work who are in the same boat as you?
Some others are Star Wars fans.
Oh, we don't talk about that.
Okay. They like Star Trek, but I always feel like since Star Trek is the only reason I'm doing this, that I kind of am like indebted to it, So I come here a lot. Others are fans, but I think they were not as dedicated as me.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've watched all the series just because I want the adventure to continue because the stories are so compelling, and I enjoyed all of them. But my main one was The Next Generation because that was what I grew up with. But I'm hoping that the other series, like Voyager, has inspired young girls to pursue science like I did. Because there's a lot of pressure in society or expectations of what a girl can do, and I kind of had that in the background when I was pursuing my PhD, and I was thinking, maybe there is a limit to what I can do, but Star Trek kept me motivated to finish what I was doing and get this wonderful job, and without it I wouldn't have made it, I think. So that's probably why I'm so loyal to it.
Good?
Yeah, feel free to edit out anything where I was belittling other cultures.